Man, who cares, bro? I'm just gonna look at you.
This is my room's a mess. Hello, welcome to the Messy Room. My name's Jason. I'm here with my brother Vic.
Hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on?
You know, we're back better than ever. Another week in the Messy Room because, you know, we're always getting better and we always got to be doing some great stuff, right? And this week we got an amazing guest.
Amazing guest, ladies and gentlemen.
A community leader.
Oh man,
that's inspiring to me and Vic for sure.
I'm telling you, we've been studying him for a long time. I've known him for a long time, ladies and gentlemen. He's a walking billboard. If you don't know this man, then you're not walking the streets of Chelsea. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, he is a legend. He's a legend. He is an advocate for change, ladies and gentlemen. The city that I love so much in Chelsea. He is Councilor-at-Large, ladies and gentlemen, in Chelsea.
And been at that position for over 30 years.
He's
been working hard. He's seen Chelsea from here to over here, man. It's gonna be a crazy convo, man.
It's gonna be an amazing convo, ladies and gentlemen. I have the utmost honor of introducing my guy, Leo Robinson. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I thank you guys for having me on your show. I think it's a great opportunity to be able to speak to some of the young people out here in our community and try to encourage them to get involved in our community.
For sure.
Thank you. Yeah. No, definitely. You know, Leo, you know, I've known you for a while, and every time I see you, I feel like I learned something new, you know, like when I was an intern at the ISD department, you know, working under Mike McAteer, it was just like, you know, you would come in there and you would, you know, really give me great advice. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but, you know, we had a conversation about college and you really like told me, you know, you really like put it into my head and gave it the bigger picture in my mind, how college is important, not only to my life, but to my, you know, future generations of mine and, you know, for the community. And I just want to thank you for that. Thank you personally.
Well, thank you. And actually, you know, I try to encourage kids while you're young, you got to take advantage of going to school. It's not only about getting an education, about connections.
Yeah.
You might have connections with people that you went to school with. Their family could have a business, and they say, geez, you know, here's a guy who I went to school with, Victor, that would fit in perfect for this job. Let me give him a call and see if I can encourage him to come and meet with us and see if we can encourage him to come out and be on our team. You know, that's how things work.
Definitely. That's how I have the job I have right now, ladies and gentlemen. I with the connections, I'm telling you, I called Mike. Mike called up Leo. Leo called up me, and you know, I got hired and I got a job now. Thank you a lot, bro. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, well, you know, it's like being in the right place at the right time, right? And it was a great opportunity for you to be able to, you know, get to the table and have an interview and being able to sell yourself, you know, to the people at the Western Front. You know, so yeah, and you know, and part of that was connected, but part of that was on you being able to sell yourself.
Yeah, and your recommendation really helped me a lot. So like Leo, you know, you're a great advocate for the city, and you know, you've been in politics for so long. So just like a question I had just about like, you know, our country right now, like I feel like, you know, we've gone through like 4 years of kind of like a up and down kind of thing in society, you know, and especially like 2020 with, you know, Corona and you know social injustices like George Floyd getting murdered, things like that. Like I just want to see your take on the new president and, you know, the next 4 years. Like, what do you think is to come?
Well, I think, you know, I mean, part of what they're going to do, which the former president didn't do, was deal with the virus. You know, the virus is, you know, we're losing so many people a day compared to 9/11, which happened. And actually, I don't know if you guys remember 9/11. Actually, I was living on Chester Avenue, and my wife was actually in D.C. In a hotel near the Pentagon when the plane hit the Pentagon, and she couldn't get out of Washington, D.C. And actually, I was at home watching the news, figuring out when people were going to be able to travel, and just so happened that later that day, I had to call her and tell her to get to the train station because the train is running, and she was able to get back to Mass. But you know, we're in a situation that, 4 years as far as minorities were concerned,
Mhm.
we lost a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And actually people say, well, this guy did a lot for African Americans. And, I don't believe that, and someone said, well, he gave a lot of money to the black colleges, but, that wasn't true. And the opportunity for, people, we see people now struggling, with food, trying to pay
Yeah.
their rent, you know, being discriminated against.
Mhm.
Um, and if you look at the civil rights movement, going back, in the 60s,
The 60s, yeah.
I mean, I graduated Chelsea High in 68. And back then, one of the things that you guys probably don't know was that when you turned 18 years old,
Mhm.
you had to sign up for the draft.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know
Oh,
that.
yeah. And then you got drafted in the military. So in 1970, I went into the Army for 2 years.
Mm.
And there were places, down south where I couldn't even go in a restaurant to eat.
Wow.
I'd have to go around the back, for people to serve you. When I was a young kid traveling down, seeing, some of my father's relatives,
Yeah.
they had the white fountain, the colored fountain, the same with the bathrooms. Yeah. So I mean, you look at all those things and you look at the work that a lot of the civil rights people like Martin Luther King, stepped up to actually do. And I think one
Yeah.
of the things that, always impressed me was, his leadership. And actually before him in 63 was John F. Kennedy,
John F. Kennedy.
who they shot. Um, he was traveling in Dallas.
Mhm.
And then actually in April of 68, actually I was playing ball at the YMHA. It used to be right across from Chelsea High School.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
where the Clark is now, right? Well,
where the
okay.
clock is, absolutely. And got the news. It was my birthday, actually. And Martin Luther King got killed on my birthday, April 4th.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
yeah. So, those things there. And then actually the week after he died, Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, so he couldn't discriminate against blacks and buying property and stuff like that.
Mm.
Like right now on the table is going to be the John Lewis Voting Act, which is, stop all this gerrymandering about trying to eliminate African Americans from voting. And if you noticed, all the, in Wisconsin and Detroit and Pittsburgh and in
Yeah.
Atlanta, that's where a lot of those court cases were trying to stop the counts of African Americans voting in this past election. And
Yeah.
that's why you saw a lot of African American women come out to vote and get behind Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And I don't know if anybody saw a little bit of the inauguration. And Ray Clyburn from South Carolina,
Mhm.
George Bush told him, because of him, he crowned Joe Biden. And Joe Biden was the only one who could have beat Donald Trump in the election. That if it was anybody else, we would have had 4 more years of Trump.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh man.
You think so?
which, yeah, oh
Because
yeah.
obviously the other option would have been Bernie Sanders, but I feel like, he's like loved by a lot of people, but I don't know what do you think?
Well, Bernie is a very progressive.
Yeah.
I think people think his ideas are kind of way out there. Uh,
Yeah.
he could have been in the cabinet with Joe Biden, but figured out if he took a position in the cabinet, they could have lost ground in the Senate because they wouldn't know who would get elected in Vermont. And
Mm.
if it would have been a Republican, it would have tilted the scale to the Republicans.
Okay.
So he
So that's
stayed so
why
so it could
he
stay like
stayed
that.
where he
As a
is.
Senate, okay, as a senator.
Yeah,
All right.
as a senator.
So that seems like a lot of, like back and forth. Like it's really like trying to get the numbers right. So why does it seem like a game so much for some reason?
Well, because you got to look at, well, this guy got how many millions of votes?
Mhm.
Mm.
Biden got up, much more votes than he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was trying to actually stop the minority vote from being counted because in the early returns, he was ahead. And that's why he came out and tried to declare he was the winner for the
Yeah. Yeah.
presidential
Like
race.
the first night that they say.
Yes,
And
yeah,
okay, yeah.
yeah. And that was scary. I mean, for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that the times we're living is just kind really scary. 2020, was like a year where you really didn't know what was gonna happen next. Like what you were gonna see next on the news. It was like I feel like COVID hit the world, and then the world kind of froze, and then it was kind of like I feel in my opinion our government kind of I feel like we didn't take the initiative to try to stop this thing. I feel like we just kind of let it like like when you have an ice machine in your fridge and you like the
yeah,
ice falls on the floor and you kind of just kick it under the fridge, you're lazy to pick it up. I feel like that's what was happening. I feel like they were kind of just trying to avoid it. Like, Trump was saying it wasn't that big of a deal and this and that, but then it ends up being like something really major. So I think it's just a lack of
yeah.
responsibility on that end,
Well, then you take in the factors of who are the people dying. All
Yeah.
right. So if you
Mostly
look
the
at
minorities.
Mostly minorities,
right,
yes.
right. So you know, he's looking at that's an advantage for me because there are less minorities. So there are less people that are going to be able to come out and vote for other
Wow.
candidates that they might be interested in. Yeah,
Mm.
there's a lot, when it comes to these mechanisms and voting and
Yeah.
carrying on. And I think that, for me, I support the people who kind of are in the same vein where I am looking for those types of change and supporting housing and public safety, and improving the overall conditions of our community here in the city, and that means we have a lot of boards
Mm-hmm.
here, and
Yeah.
we're always looking for people to come on and get involved on the boards, and we haven't really got a lot of participation from the community.
How
Um,
so what's like the process? You have to sign up, or you like, is it like a piece of paper you
And
sign
like
up, or is it like
what are the boards in charge of too?
well, you have for like you have the planning board, and when any projects are looking to come into the city and be built, you have to
Yeah.
go before the planning board, and you got to go before the zoning board. So there are members on those boards that are making decisions
Mm.
about our community. Sometimes I might not agree with some of them, and sometimes I do. When I was the president a few years back, I worked with the Housing Authority in
Okay.
regards to Central Avenue. So
Mm.
Central Avenue, they had put out an RFP for developers, and there was two proposals that came in. One was from neighborhood developers, and one was from the Cochran Group.
Okay.
And actually, the Cochran Group was selected to do the development. So in this development, they got a 99-year lease with the Chelsea Housing Authority. So 96 Housing Authority people who live in that development right now will be 96 families going into the 322 units there. Then there'll be 40 units for working people. And then the remainder of those units will be market rate units. And there'll be a parking garage attached to it. Now, February 8th is going to be a Zoom meeting because the city got the largest mass works grant, $5
Wow.
million to improve the sidewalks and the sewers and the water lines and everything over there. And sometimes people don't really understand the economics. This
Yeah.
project, this project is going to be well over $120 million to do. So you're going to look at 96 Chelsea Housing Authority families going in there. So when a Housing Authority family moves out, another Chelsea Housing Authority person is able to move in.
Mm.
But it'll always be 96 Housing Authority
Okay.
units.
Out of those 322, it's always going to be
Yeah,
96
the
for the
96
housing authority. Okay.
Yep. So when one moves out, another one from the housing authority moves in. Yeah. And there's no, poor door or rich door. Everybody goes in the same door. They'll have
Mhm.
all the same amenities. They'll have an exercise room and all those things that you see in all these new developments
Yeah,
that
I
are
think
taking
that's smart.
place.
I feel like that like diminishes the like a class system kind of, right? I
Mhm.
feel like
Right.
that's what it does.
This will be this will be the first one that's not only done in Massachusetts, but one of the first ones done throughout the country.
Mm,
Okay.
In partnership with the other, because the state doesn't have a lot of money to be able to do that. Like right now, the Chelsea Housing Authority, for all the units to do every year to be able to do maintenance, they only get like $650,000. Now, at 14 Bloomingdale, they had two elevators out.
okay.
So in order to fix the elevators, it was over 450,000. So that means you didn't have enough money to be able to spread around to fix up things in the other developments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's insane. Yeah. So like what steps do we need to take in order to like, I don't know, like receive more like money, or how's that work? How's that process work?
Well, the cultural council, they have a website,
Okay.
on the city site, and you go on there and see when the funding cycles are and what you need to put together for them to support what you're doing. And you submit a proposal to them, and they'll figure out if you get any money. Then you can go on the state, the Heritage Fund, and
Mm.
look at grants and stuff from there to be able to work on getting a studio.
Mm.
So so y-
Yeah,
so
I
you're
mean,
saying a board member, right, can be anybody, right?
yes.
It's just a
So
volunteer.
yeah, it's just you volunteer. The boards meet once a month.
Okay.
They make decisions that they feel are appropriate for the city or
Okay.
not.
So do these boards work with like the city manager to do things?
Yeah, they work with the city manager. They work with the city council.
Okay.
The They work with community development around housing issues. They work with the zoning board around zoning issues.
Mm-hmm.
Which can incorporate anything. Right now we got a big packet of some zoning changes for the city, and one of them is to affect Broadway, and the goal is to be able to build on top of the stores on Broadway.
Okay.
Okay.
But if you build on top of the stores on Broadway and you have nowhere to park, and you don't want to make any
Mm.
parking um, assessments, so
Mm.
that people can park for a certain number of hours and then have to move their car in the morning. People don't. I'm not going to rent a place. If I can't have a place to park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Especially because like now on Broadway they have that bus line, like the bus
Yeah.
Yeah.
bike line.
Right.
That's like you
Yeah.
can't go on that right side. So I
Yeah.
feel like it's even worse.
Yeah. Well, it's tough because then when you want to go over to the bank or to Chelsea House of Pizza or whatever, and you want to get a parking spot in front of their place, you got to cross that. You got to watch out not only for the bus but for bikers.
Yeah.
That are shooting down Broadway.
Is that something that like you guys were a part of a decision to do, or is that something else? Like that line, that red
Took
line.
Right. It took over 3 years to get to that point. Um,
Wow.
and this was supposed to be temporarily, but like most things, once it's in, it's in.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. There were different designs. If they were going to go back to Broadway being a two-way street, which when I was growing up, Broadway was two ways, and they used to
Like
have
both ways like that.
yeah, and they used to have the overhead electric trolleys and railroad
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
tracks
Yeah, yeah,
that used to run down Broadway.
yeah.
And sometime when the wires fell off, it would stop the trolley. The bus driver would have to get out and reconnect the wires so that he could move the trolley. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So
So
people don't, they don't see how all those changes and and how it's happened.
Yeah.
You know, there were two big fires here in Chelsea. Was in 1908,
Yep.
big Chelsea fire, and then in 1973, well, my family we got burnt out on 4th Street and lost everything.
Oh.
You know, and people don't know that Chelsea down around Winter Cemetery, and then we had a flood, of the city.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I
Yeah,
didn't know that. I know about the fires for sure, because that's like
yeah,
a thing that, like, like when you're from here, like it's like, kind of like a thing that's like well known. Like everyone talks about that. It's like barbershop talk, and like you learn it in
right.
school and things like that. But I didn't know we had a flood too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When
Yeah.
was that? Is that recent, or is that like?
No, that was like back in the early 1900s, I believe.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
No, I mean, there's a lot of history here. Like people don't know down on Marginal Street, you see the big houses with the big columns, the Greek revival houses.
Yeah, okay. The ones by
Yeah,
the salt
yeah.
pile? By the salt pile?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back in the 1800s, Chelsea was a resort for rich people. They used to come and be over there by the water. And
Wow.
over there was over there next to the Eastern Salt where their building is, where they put up some benches and some grass.
Yeah.
That's where the beach used to be. Yeah. Yeah.
We had a beach in Chelsea.
Yep.
Oh, look at that! I didn't know. That's awesome. That's awesome. A question I had was like, so I'm like, my whole life I've been in Chelsea. Jason, for most of his life he was in Chelsea.
Yeah.
You too, but I feel like it's a difference. So like I wanted to know how Chelsea was when you were growing up and you were like our age and things like that, like and the changes that you've seen.
Well, I think and growing up, we lived down where Cam's is. It was
The factory over there, right? Like near
right,
Tobin?
right,
Yeah.
right. There used to be a school there, the Carey School.
Okay.
The Carey School was knocked down, before, somewhere before me, and there used to be a park there, and all the best ball players from around Chelsea, because it was only half court, so you had to know how to play defense. And yeah, and because the winner stayed on, and all the best ball players would come in and play.
Yeah.
But we had a park system where during the summer, okay, you had Quigley Park, you had Vogue Park, you had Merritt Park, you had Cary Park, and they would have basketball teams, softball teams, checkers, chess.
Okay.
So you got to know other kids from other parts of the city.
Oh,
You weren't isolated, because there was only one high school. So back then, in high school, you had a lot of people who played football,
Okay.
and a lot of people who went out for the basketball team, and you wanted to make the basketball team because you got a free pair of Converse sneakers. All right.
That's
All
awesome.
right.
We got a T-shirt now. Well, when I was in high school, we got a T-shirt.
Yeah. Oh, and it's funny because my friend who grew up here in Chelsea,
Yeah.
was a great athlete. Donna Walcott was in the Hall of Fame, and he was one of the first Chelsea players to play in the Harry Gannis game and caught 2 touchdown passes. And actually, he went on to be vice president of human resources for Converse Rubber. So for years, never had to pay for a pair of sneakers while he was
Oh man.
And he used to let us, me and my brother, with the Latimer Society kids,
Yep.
go up to Reading where they were, and they'd give the kids sneakers, shirts, shorts, just showing them, as a guy from Chelsea,
Yeah.
made it up to the top, and who's giving back, to the community. And there's other people like, people don't know because they don't really know the history.
Yeah.
We had Louis Perkins, who was older than me, played Chelsea High hoops.
Okay.
He scored 60 points in a game in the afternoon, set a school record. A kid from Quincy that night hit 62 points, and his record only lasted like a couple hours. All right. Louis went on. Yeah. Well, Louis went on to be the athletic director at University of Connecticut. Bobby Chernak, who graduated Chelsea High with him, went there. Also was involved in administration at Connecticut. They were responsible for getting the football field built at the University of Connecticut. And
That's
Louis Perkins ended up going to be the AD at the University of Kansas. And Bobby went on to oversee Hartford University. Then eventually became the vice president of admissions at
Hartford.
George Washington.
Oh.
No, George Washington. And Bobby and I, we always stayed in contact. So when people don't know, I actually coached the girls team at Pope John for
Yeah.
13 years, and I was on the board of trustees.
Okay.
So when kids from Pope John applied to George Washington, I'd always call them and say, "Can you keep an eye on these kids?" And they'd get accepted, but they didn't get as much money as they got for a school around here. But Kyle, you remember?
Who?
Right? Joan Cromwell's son.
Ah.
Kyle, you remember?
No, I don't know.
Never heard of him.
Chelsea kid.
Okay.
He applied to George Washington.
Yeah.
I called Bobby, keep an eye, to look him over. He got in. I said, whatever you do, you go and meet him. Tell him who you are. And Bobby said to him, while you're here, no matter what, whatever you need, no matter what time of night or day it is, you call me. Here's my information. All right. So there we go again about connections and moving around and getting to know people. To see people. We lose a lot of young people who kind of look at the city in a negative light.
Yeah.
They go, well, I'm moving on. I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah.
I don't want to get roots here. Everybody talks bad about the city. And we have a lot of good people here. A lot of good people.
I definitely agree.
Yeah. I would say something that Vic was always saying is that for some reason it's like there's a different flavor in the air in Chelsea. It's like it's actually I don't know if it's changed from your generation to ours, but I feel like we've become a lot more prideful. Like a lot of the people I know are like, yeah, I'm from Chelsea and I'm proud that I came from Chelsea.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm kind of happy that that's a thing because I am like I graduated from Chelsea High and I feel like whenever I do something, it's like I was educated completely in Chelsea. I'm a product of Chelsea. You know what I mean? So it's like every move I make is somehow was influenced by Chelsea. I'm very proudful of that.
Yeah. I definitely think there's some, there's a flavor in this city. Like I always say, there's a certain sauce or something going around here. Like I feel like, me and Jason, we had this idea to start this podcast and to, make connections and just try to speak to people and learn people's stories, things like that. And the amount of support we've got from the city is just amazing. And I'm forever grateful. Like, you know what I mean? I just feel like, Chelsea, protects their own and will root for their own. And then, it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see.
Well, Chelsea is the place, and
it is.
And it's to the point, like I would say to young people, it's like take the first time home buyers course.
Yeah.
Figure out how much house you can buy. All right. If you're paying, for a 1-bedroom, $1,600 or $1,800.
Yeah.
Or you've got a 2-bedroom and you're paying $2,200. That's a mortgage.
Yeah.
So you can have your own place, and
it's yours.
Yeah, and working for you, and you can fix it up the way you want to fix it up, take care of it how you want to, take care of it, and sometimes it's like, I think about our first house was me and my sister went in and her husband, and, we bought a house. They lived on one floor, I lived on one. We got a lot of equity in the house, and eventually, my wife wanted to buy a single, and we ended up buying a single, and my sister and them ended up buying a single, unfortunately out of Chelsea, but, they're Chelsea people.
Yeah.
And, we always look at it, it's about family,
Yeah, definitely,
so,
definitely.
For sure.
So, we get together on all the holidays, and actually, my daughter, who actually, coached, she was, co-head coach at MIT for 12 years for women's basketball.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
And well, she got hired last year, Vassar College down in Poughkeepsie, New York, to be the head women's coach. So
Wow.
she's the head women's coach, down there. So she gets an opportunity to go out and meet, different kids and try to recruit them, to the school. And the school, unfortunately, it's like $70,000 a year.
Yeah, that's tough, bro.
Yeah,
I feel like
so-
that's what keeps a lot of
Yeah.
kids out of college,
Yeah.
especially from like Chelsea.
Yeah. Well, you say to kids, you can go to a junior college for a couple years,
Yeah.
and then finish off, your degree at a 4-year school, finishing up in 2 years or whatever. But there's nothing wrong with having a degree from a junior college.
Yeah. And I definitely think, when I was going to Chelsea High, we could do like early, like college classes. I know
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a big thing that we did, like, so I took,
Right.
I believe 2-3 classes in Chelsea High as a senior. And, those credits moved along when I went into community college. I went to Bunker
Yeah.
Hill. So that's, I mean, I definitely think, we are, we take good steps, I think, to take care of our students.
Yeah.
Well,
I
yeah,
actually,
well, actually, that program was a result of me and my brother working with Bunker Hill.
wow.
And
They don't
Jesse
have that anymore,
Thompson.
right? They don't have that
Yeah,
anymore.
they still do. Now the city
Oh.
pays for some of it. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Oh.
awesome, man.
Oh,
Well,
man, I
we-
didn't know that. Now
yeah.
it's even cooler. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. We did actually. We had a grant from them to recruit kids to do that, and actually, we used that $10,000 so kids could take classes, extra classes.
Yeah.
So we didn't get paid or anything.
Yeah.
The
Yo,
money was
that
ours,
was-
so we said, yeah, use it for the kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know you and your brother have a nonprofit organization out of Chelsea called the Lewis Latimer. Lewis Latimer Society. Am I saying that
Yes.
right? I think I botched the name, but yeah.
No, you're saying it right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know who Louis Latimer was until
Yeah.
I was searching you up, and I thought it was amazing to see that, like, some of his ideas were really like that, like, how he helped Thomas Jefferson, the invented the light bulb. And like, I was like, wow, Chelsea born guy, like
Yeah.
making like major changes that like people use in this world every day that it amazed me. It just amazed me.
Well, you look at he developed the filament and the light bulb. He also worked with Alexander Graham Bell on the telephone, and that's how he got the telephone. When we were growing up, in most houses were series lights. So
Okay.
if you had 5 rooms
Yeah.
and one light bulb went out, you had to get a new light bulb and go to every light bulb, unscrew it, then rescrew it to see if that was the bulb that went out.
Oh,
And
okay,
that's
because they were
how- and
all
then
in the same
Okay.
unit.
Yeah,
Okay.
same circuit. So he
Yeah.
came up with a system called parallel circuits,
Oh,
so that if one light went out, the rest of the lights.
He
Stay
came
on.
up with that?
All right.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
So the disinfectant machines in the hospital.
yeah.
And you're in there, and that's Lewis Latimer. All right. He was fooling around with air conditioners back in the 1800s. He actually wrote the first book on incandescent lighting, which was supposed to be about Edison's system. And when we would go in and teach kids, and I would say to the kids, if he wrote the book, whose system really was it?
It was
Yeah,
his.
it was
I
his.
mean, they say that about Thomas Edison, that it wasn't really his idea.
Right. So
He's like, you know, he was kind of like the floor general. He kind of facilitated.
yeah, right. Yeah, he was a
So-
facilitator. But anyone who fringed upon Edison's patents, Latimer went and represented Edison. So, all right.
So this is the Chelsea guy, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And he named his nonprofit after him. Like
Yeah.
how did that feel? Like 1997, you finally got everything down packed and you finally have this you know foundation. Like how what's that feeling if you could describe it?
Well, it was a great feeling, and actually, we had to do research to find. We found his last living relative was his granddaughter,
Yeah.
and I always think about when we met her that we wanted to get permission to be able to use him as a role model for kids,
Yeah.
and we were going to New York to meet her. We were taking a train down to New York.
Yeah.
And the reason we were taking the train because Lewis Latimer improved the toilets in the train. Okay.
Wow. So he was just doing everything.
Yeah. So we felt, well, like, why don't we do that? So I had called the granddaughter. I said, we're going to be getting in, Monday night, 7:00, and we'll go to the hotel and we'll meet you, the next morning. Right.
Yeah.
And she goes, wait a minute, let me look at my schedule. I said, your schedule? She goes, yeah, I'm going to be at a meeting till 8:00. I'm going to go home. I'm going to have a little quick bite to eat. So why don't you and your brother come to my house at 8:30? I said, no, we can come the next day. She insisted. We went to her house and we sat with her talking about her grandfather and us talking about Chelsea for up until midnight.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's come to Chelsea quite a few times. And it was interesting because at the time there was no hotel here. And I said to her, there's a hotel up on Route 1 that we can put you up in.
Yeah.
She goes to me, I'm staying with family. I'm trying to figure out who's the family. She goes, staying at your house. I go, okay.
Oh man.
All right.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I thought when I found that out, like Jason's a science guy, he
Yeah.
he loves
Yeah.
the science, and I know I was like, oh man, that's brilliant,
Yeah.
because when I found out, I was amazed. I'm assuming Jason is, he's going crazy over there.
Well, they were big in the Unitarian Church, and actually, her grandfather got recognized by the city, and she came and accepted an award for her. And
Yeah.
I always think about me and my brother. We met with Senator Birmingham, who was Chelsea, and he was the president of the Senate.
Yeah.
We were trying to explain to him how important Lewis Latimer was.
Yeah.
And, he kind of, he listened, didn't really, grab onto it, like we thought he should. And we did a lot of work with this historical collaborative in Boston, because the building that Latimer started as a guy in this law department for Cosby and Gould. They were patent experts.
Okay.
He used to sweep the floor, and he used to look over the shoulder of the guys doing the drawings.
Mm.
And what he did is he went out and he bought used tools, and got to the point where he would be able to become a draftsman. And Alexander Graham Bell saw his work to detail. And Alexander Graham Bell actually was teaching at BU. And he said, when he went to Cosby and Gould, he said, I want to work with this man. So Latimer used to have to stay at night after Bell got done doing his classes and go and work with him at the patent office. That's how he ended up getting the patent for the telephone.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a building that's on the historical trail in Boston
Yeah.
that they do, like at the Mass General was the first ether room. That's part of that trail. So they were honoring um, Lewis Latimer in the Hall of Fame, the Science Hall of Fame. And his granddaughter came. They asked us, would she come? And we said, look, you fly her up, you put her up in a hotel, they put her up in the Four Seasons. That's where the event was. 500 people. And the president Birmingham at that time goes, I didn't realize how big this was. I go, yeah, I go, we're trying to tell you, that this guy was, without him, we wouldn't have really had a lot of those things,
Yeah.
you know. So I had the opportunity last February to go into the Burke complex.
Okay.
And I worked with 22 classes around Lewis Latimer, brought artifacts, showing his work and stuff like that. It was great. The kids had a great time.
The complex, like the elementary school that I
Yeah.
went to, like right there.
Yeah, the Burke. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I did 622 kids in a week.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that sounds like fun though, right? I mean, you're sharing like what you love,
Yeah.
about the city and things like
Yeah.
that too. Like a younger generation, for example, I didn't know who that was. I'm sorry if I didn't, we and Jason didn't get the opportunity to what is that? Oh man, we didn't get the opportunity, to have this, podcast session with you. I would have never known. I think I would have gone, my whole life not knowing, and it's amazing. It's amazing to see.
Well, being at your peak your interest, there's a video that was done by the Smithsonian in Washington. They hired they're famous. They're called the Brewster Puppeteers.
The Brewster Pup. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. And they're puppets. All right. They travel all over the world and everything. They did, and we use it. They did the story of Lewis Latimer about his mother and father.
With puppets?
Yeah.
Wow.
Coming to escaped slaves from Virginia. His mother and father were escaped slaves from Virginia. The father was of mixed race, so he looked white. So the wife said to him, I want my kid to be born free. So they bought 2 tickets and they stayed down underneath the ship in a cabin during the day. And at nighttime, when they would go to get something to eat, she would act as his servant. So nobody would figure out that they were slaves. But then when and then when they made it to Boston, they had slave catchers, and somebody from Virginia saw him, and they detained him on the Boston Commons in the jail. They couldn't arrest him; they detained him. And Lloyd Garrison and a bunch of people surrounded the jail so they couldn't take him. And the minister back then bought his freedom for $400, which was a lot of money at that time.
Yeah.
And that's how they ended up in Chelsea. And then the Dred Scott decision made the father move further out to Lynn because he was worried they might come looking for him. Yeah, so there's a great story, around Latimer, and his family.
So why did you choose him to be the head of your to represent the
face?
The face, to represent what you're doing.
Well, we wanted to show kids that there are people that look like them that are capable of doing all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's very important too.
Right. Well, because a lot of Black history is not being taught.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And actually,
and I mean that's like something from Chelsea, and you would think that we would hear it in our schools.
No, there's on a Cartoon Network, there's a thing, and you could probably Google it, about racism.
Yeah.
It's about a school teacher talking about Lewis Latimer, and why aren't we? How come we're not mentioning other African American inventors and people like that to talk about? Right. Oh, like the everlasting machine that they were able to build shoes with used to be right down here on um, Garish Avenue. And then when it's moved out to Lynn, where they could produce shoes at a faster pace. Yeah. So there was, you know, a lot going on here in Chelsea and in the Boston area, you know. And Latimer he was in the Navy. He lied about his age. So he got in the Navy at 16. And then he ended up getting back and being in Boston. His father had a barber shop on Cambridge Street in Boston.
Okay.
I don't know if you get a chance, you know where Charmer Place is? Here in Chelsea. If you're on Marginal Street,
Okay.
you hit the beginning of Charmer Street. You walk up. There's an alleyway with Charmer Place. There used to be slave houses there.
Wow.
And neighborhood developers developed that for pregnant girls there. There's a plaque that we work with neighborhood developers to put on the building about Lewis Latimer. That's there. All right. Lewis Latimer's sister, who died, is buried in a garden cemetery on Sharman Street. Yeah. So there's plenty history. I mean, we didn't really, we knew a Latimer and we researched him, because we were looking for somebody who looked like us to be able to, introduce kids into, because people go, well, you can't do that, or you can't. I think about when I was going from the 9th grade to Chelsea High, and you know how you meet with your guidance teacher?
Yeah.
And I met with my guidance teacher, who was an elderly woman. She goes, well, why don't you just take general classes? Because you'll probably end up working for the city, on the rubbish truck. So some years later, I ran into her and I said, remember you told me about that rubbish truck? I go, my family owns that rubbish truck.
Yeah.
I would have done the same thing. I would have done the same exact thing.
So
like,
I go, yeah, remember that story you told me? I go, my mother's brothers and sisters and us, we own that rubbish company.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Charles Lee Disposal. Yeah.
I feel like I didn't get anything like that. I feel like in the school that we were in, I don't know if you had the same experience, Vic, but I feel like they were like motivating me a lot. Like I took every AP science that they offered. Like I was moving to Saugus, but I wanted to stay in Chelsea because they offered more AP courses. Like that's one thing, and they were like really good. We were like scoring really well on AP courses and stuff like that. So like I was really interested, and I stayed at Chelsea High. I took AP Bio, AP Chemistry, AP Physics. I took like AP Stats. I took all these AP classes, and I was getting supported a lot from my teachers, like to do science, take these challenging classes. So that's kind of surprising to hear the difference now.
Yeah. Well, because back then, Chelsea, most of the teachers lived in Chelsea.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's different now. I don't.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's
So
like few to
So you would see him shopping the same places you would be shopping and and doing things. And it's I always say to kids, it's what you make it. If you want to learn, you learn. My mother used to say to us, no matter how old you are, you're still able to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's true. That's definitely true. No, I feel like, I feel like I probably, my high school career, I probably didn't give, teachers a chance. I know like teachers were motivated, to have us, graduate, with potentially be someone one day. I feel like, I kind of took a different route where I was trying to figure out myself and do whatever I wanted to, I was kind of doing whatever I wanted to do. Like some classes I would do really well in, some classes I just, I didn't show up and stuff, which I wish now, I took advantage of that. I would have, like, I feel like, if I took my science classes more seriously or something, I could engage in conversations, or I could have built a greater network than I have now, and be able to just have those connections and things like that. Like you were saying.
Well, it's, the more you're out there, the more people that you're going to meet.
Mm-hmm.
when I was in high school, I worked for um, one of my teachers was George Baruch, and his father owned a shoe store in Roxbury.
Okay.
So after school, when I wasn't playing ball, I'd meet him after school. We'd drive into Roxbury. We'd work in the store every day after school. Saturday morning, he'd pick me up and we'd work the store. So, he had a lot of interaction with a lot of different people all the time. So that helped you grow,
Yeah.
knowing how to deal with people, even sometime when you're angry with them and you don't want to really deal with
Mm.
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Just to
So,
like,
Yeah.
oh,
we're gonna say,
no,
Jay?
I was gonna say, so,
What?
you know, you've been on the city council for like, you were a city councilor at large for now at the position for over 30 years, right? You've been the president of the city council
Yeah.
for a while. So I'm like kind of interested is like, what made
Yeah.
you want to do, politics, especially like because you grew up in Chelsea, right? So you must have seen, like, I don't know what it is. Like, I know I
Yeah.
see some places where we could do change or something like that. So what is it that made you want to become part of the city council?
Well, I think part of it was the neighborhood I lived in around Williams School.
Okay.
Um, People really weren't paying attention to our neighborhood like they were other neighborhoods.
Okay.
I felt that we needed to get a seat at the table
Yeah.
in order to be able to make change. You gotta be at the table. People go, "Oh, I don't want to do that." Well, you don't want to do that, but things are passing you by. It's like, well, wait a minute. You
Yeah.
know, after the fire of 1973, I was in charge. I was worked at Capic, in neighborhood centers. I was tasked with putting a team together to build 123 units where the MITC building is, and we competed with a couple other developers who ended up getting the first building at 111 Everett Avenue. And Mr. Simboli and I became friends
Yeah.
because we competed for the same piece of land with this other person who ended up with the land. Um, because what we were going to do was 12 of those units were going to be on Spruce Street. We were going to sell those as condominiums, to help people stay in the neighborhood. And what people found out after the Chelsea fire, when they wanted people to move to Somerville and Malden and all these places, people didn't want to leave Chelsea, you know. So that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from your initial experience, so like I've always been like, I kind of the same thing as you. I'm like, all right, I feel like there's some things that could be changed, like I feel like I still feel somehow in the school system, for example, like, we got teachers, it's like a revolving door of teachers, you know what I mean? There's no one really staying. And I like, so that's like something that I felt while I was a student, like, oh, we need to change this, right? But I'm not in the chair, you know what I mean? I'm not seeing like the stuff that we see. So like, what was your initial like, oh damn, like this is what I can do, and this is how was your first experience on the city council?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a learning process.
Yeah.
Knowing, learning the ordinances and the different mechanisms of that. But one of the doors I felt needed to be kicked open was getting minorities on the police and fire department.
Okay.
I fought for minorities to get on the fire department, get on the police department. Um, now you look at the fire department, police department. You have a lot of Latinos
Yeah.
who grew up here who are on, doing those things. Um, I mean, I wrote an ordinance around affordable housing so that if new developers came in here to develop,
Yeah.
15% of those units had to be affordable. And
Okay.
if they didn't want to build those units in the development, they had to give us $450,000 for each unit because that's what it
Wow.
costs to rehab a unit. Yeah,
So
Wow.
I have a question.
yeah.
So does that apply to like, what's that street? Hurd Street? All those apartments in Hurd Street, do those count too?
Well, Hurd Street came in before the ordinance,
Oh,
so they were
okay.
exempt.
So this is more
Yeah.
recent then. This is more recent.
Well, those was not too long after they came in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because then, yeah, I felt, you know, we want people to stay here.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
if people
That was-
say we can't afford to stay there, there's gonna be a mechanism. That's why we went, that route about the 15%, so that people would have an opportunity to be able to move in. So if you, the first unit has to be at 30%, the second unit had to be at 60%, the third unit had to be at 80%
yeah,
of
okay.
your mean income. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
So yeah, that was definitely
know.
something that I feel like we're definitely seeing a change in the city. Like I the Hurd Street, like I became a delivery driver. I was a delivery driver for
Yeah.
John's Pizza, right?
Right.
And I would obviously go to like apartment buildings and different stuff like that, and I would see Latinos and stuff, but
Yeah.
every time I go to Hurd Street, it would be like a white person, like, and that was not normal for me to see in the city. So I was like starting to see the change, and I was hearing about all this, like I was getting introduced to the words like gentrification and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, so do you feel like that is true in the city? Like, is there a fear that we're being pushed out or not?
Well, I don't, I don't believe that we're being pushed out.
Yeah.
They're, I mean, since I've been a kid, they've been talking about gentrification. I'm still here. I haven't seen.
There you go.
And the fact of the matter is, and here's where it goes. When I say to young people,
Mhm.
take the first home buyers, and get yourself a piece of property, and then you're going to be able to stay here.
Yeah.
But if you got to keep worrying about, I'm moving to Leo's building, all Leo's all about is collecting the rents and not doing anything for me, then, after my lease is up and I know I can get more money for that unit, I'm gonna kind of say, hey, one of my family members is gonna move in, so I need the apartment, so you need to move. That might not be the case, but those are code words.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time to go.
You guys, kick rocks. Yeah. No,
Okay.
I wanted to go back to the idea you said, where you said you were a big advocate for, minorities being police officers and firefighters. I think that's beautiful because like what Jason was saying earlier, I think, when you see someone that looks like you, that's doing something like in a higher position or, just like
Some sort of authority.
Yeah, some sort, no, it doesn't have to be authority, but just like a role model figure,
Okay.
I feel like you get the confidence to try to do it yourself. Like, for example, we had a guest on, her name is Raven Baxter. She's like an amazing scientist and she's a Black woman, and I feel like she's a great example, for like Jason, for example, he wants to be a chemical engineer. And I feel like, like when you see people that look like you, that have similar stories like you, I feel like it gives you the confidence to, own your craft or to succeed in whatever you want to do. I think it's beautiful that you were such a, you really wanted that change in this city, especially the city I love.
Yeah. Well, and Jason wants to be a chemical engineer. I got somebody to introduce you to who's teaches up at UMass Lowell. Lives there in Chelsea.
I'm actually in my final semester of chemical engineering at UMass Lowell too.
Oh, so do you know Kenny Umemba?
Kenny, no, I'm not. Is that like a head of the department or something?
He does all the chemical stuff up there. The head of the department actually was a guy who came here and did workshops with us, with the kids.
Yeah, I did see that. Alfred Donatelli. He was actually my professor.
Yeah, Donatelli.
The year that he came over, he was actually my professor at the same time.
Oh,
and I didn't even know about that. I was reading about that today, and I was kind of like, I was kind of angry. I was like, damn, I would have definitely gone to that event if I would have known about it. But it was like, if I'm not reading the Chelsea Record, I wasn't going to be informed. I feel.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I've never heard of that guy though. No, I've never heard of him before.
Yeah, well, he's been up there teaching. Yeah, well, because I got to kind of wrap. I got a couple people waiting for me.
Okay.
But my question to you guys,
Oh yeah.
can you can you name the 11 city councilors or the school committee members?
I can name you.
can't.
I can name. All right. All right. Let me try my
All right.
best.
I can name a few.
I could probably name like three, maybe. I know Leo Robinson, right?
Leo.
That's number one.
Naomi.
Or Naomi, Damali Vidal, right?
Yep.
That's one. Is
Is
it Roy Ividado? Right? Okay,
Yeah.
Roy.
Yeah.
yeah, Jason, you got me.
That's
Bro,
four.
you got me
That's
beat.
four already. I don't know. I don't think I can.
Well, that's what I want you guys to research,
Okay.
you know, and start looking to get them on some of your broadcasts and see what kind of things that they're doing on the city
Okay.
council and on the
Yeah,
school committee.
definitely.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of disappointed like that we couldn't do that, right? Because that like we always say on the show is like I think that one thing that was important, especially coming from this year, like you were saying, how many Black women came out just to vote for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, right? So I feel like there's definitely being a push more towards being informed, being more what is it? Aware and involved. Yeah,
Right.
but like still it's still tough because it's like I'm just listening to you and the many stories that you tell, and you can like easily go from one story to another, and it's just like damn, like how many changes we can make, and it's kind of sometimes it feels overwhelming, So I don't know, maybe if it was like I don't know what it should be, but like I do think it's important because like you said, you make the changes. Like I know you've push like police officers to be more putting more police officers on the street, which help crime go down, so that like I know that was a big priority. And I remember back in the day like how much worse you would hear about homicides every other day. Sometimes like it would be crazy. Like I had somebody get shot in front of my house, on the steps of my house, literally right there, and I was like so it's like the changes you make are important, and you guys obviously know what you're trying to do. So it's like you guys are the ones informed. I was talking about this to Vic the other day too, is like sometimes I feel like I want to help make a change, but I don't know what's the best course of action and stuff like that, or even like who it is to go to
talk to.
Yeah.
I know you were saying some stuff about the boards. I don't know if you could give some advice.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to do this again, actually, or we'll just have to get together, outside and have some conversation and stuff. I got your email. What I'll do is I'll have Fatima send you a list of boards that have openings. And you just can take a look at, what the boards are, and if you're interested in any of them, you'd send the resume to her and I'll give them to the city manager. Because we need young people to be involved. If you're around and you're here, you want to be part of it, and not say, it's too late. Sure. I should have got involved when things were happening. I mean, you see all these condos going up on Spencer Avenue and stuff like that, and that's why people think that people are being forced out. Not being forced out. It's that if we don't have a tax base, our taxes will never go down.
Yeah. Okay.
So the more development we have, hopefully the less our taxes will be.
So they would be the ones that get taxed more, right? All these developers.
Yeah, but I mean the condos, they get taxed, and the one family, the three families in Chelsea have gone, off the charts. 800,000, 900,000.
Yeah.
Before where you could get one for 80,000. Those days are long behind us.
Long gone. Yeah.
But
Leo,
I gotta do a wrap.
Yeah, I know we gotta wrap up the show. But do you have like extra 5 minutes to do the messy moment?
Messy moment. Messy moment. Messy moment.
Leo, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for everything. Not only on the show, like thank you for coming on to my show, believing in the dream, sharing your wisdom with us, but just thank you for everything. And I really learned a lot. Like I definitely I noticed, with the question you asked, that I should be more, knowledgeable and more aware within my city. Like it's kind of like a shame that I didn't know all, every member. I didn't
Of
know,
the city council,
of the city council, and that those are, the people that are making the big difference in our lives, essentially, that we live here. So I just want to say thank you again. It was, a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah.
I'll definitely, you're, like I said in the intro, you're a walking billboard. I'll see you around.
Yeah,
we'll
thank
definitely
you.
have
Thank
more
you
conversations.
Thank you for sure.
Yeah.
It was I think that you gave like, I like the way you speak is really inspiring. Like, you've been everywhere. Like I could tell that when we brought anything up, you were able to, keep the conversation going. So that's inspiring to me, because it feels like you've had, a large experience in life, and I kind of want the same for me. And like for me, like if I was to say a messy moment, I gotta say it's Lewis Latimer, right? That's his name. Like
Lewis Latimer.
that's it. That's inspiring. That he's somebody that came from my own city, a minority just like me, and did so many great things. And I wish and I hope that I could do the same thing for a city, and in his name. You know what I mean? So I'm happy that we had the chance to speak to you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks. And I want you guys to look up the Brewster Puppeteers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, definitely.
And watch that video.
Okay.
All right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Leo, what's your messy moment about this whole podcast session?
Well, actually, there were no messy moments. You guys did a great show. I'm very proud to be part of the show.
No, thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll get together again.
Yeah, no,
Definitely,
for sure. I'm definitely interested in trying to make some changes. I don't know how much work a board does. Like, I'm already trying to, better myself always. So I'm kind of interested for sure.
Yeah. Remember the little story I told you? It's not only about being in school and learning.
Yeah.
It's about connections.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Some guy might have a company, or someone you went to school with started a company and go, I remember Vic, and he'd be a good guy to be, part of this team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh man, the legendary Leo Robinson, woo-hoo-hoo, in the mess room. Thank you again, Leo. Appreciate it so much, man. I know you gotta get going. We talk too much.
That's all right. It was wonderful. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you for having me. All right.
Thank you. And
We'll do it again.
Yeah. It's a wrap the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Well, check you later.
Be cool.
See you.
Thank you.